All right, so let's dive into something I think pretty cool. The world of AD building design and construction.
Okay.
I know you're looking to become an ADAP.
Right.
And you've got that official study guide.
Yes.
Which, let's be honest, it feels a bit like they just handed you like an encyclopedia.
It's a lie.
An eco-jargon.
Right. It can definitely be a bit overwhelming.
Exactly. But don't worry, that's why we're here.
Yes.
We've gone through the ADAP Building Design Plus Construction Study Guide, and we've pulled out, I think, the must-know points to help you ace that exam.
We're going to cut through all that technical stuff and focus on what really matters.
So to start off, for anyone who might be unfamiliar, what exactly is ADBD plus C?
So ADBD plus C stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, Building Design plus Construction.
Okay.
It's basically a globally recognized rating system created by the U.S. Green Building Council, or USGBC, to really measure how environmentally friendly and efficient buildings are.
So it's like a scorecard for how green your building is.
Yes.
Focusing specifically on the design and construction phases.
That's it.
Right.
And having that LEED credential, which stands for LEED Accredited Professional, shows you got the know-how to make it all happen.
Now, the exam itself,
Yes.
what's the format like? It seems pretty intense from the guide.
Well, there are actually two parts to the exam.
Okay.
First, you tackle the LED Green Associate exam,
Right.
which tests your grasp of just the basics.
Okay.
Then you move on to the BD plus C specific section.
Makes sense to build a good foundation first.
Right.
What kinds of questions should one expect?
So the questions are cleverly designed to assess you on 3 levels.
Okay.
Content, application, and analysis.
Okay.
Content questions, check if you know the lingo. Application questions, see if you can put those concepts into real-life situations.
So, for example, knowing what a brownfield is one thing.
Right.
But could you actually explain how you'd redevelop one while meeting LED standards?
Exactly. And then there are analysis questions, which really challenge you to think critically and solve problems using what you've learned.
That sounds pretty tough.
Yeah.
Does the study guide offer any advice on how to study effectively?
It actually recommends shorter, frequent study sessions.
Okay.
Rather than cramming everything in at the last minute.
Oh.
Consistent learning is key.
That's actually good advice for anyone studying anything.
It is.
Really, it's definitely more my style.
Yeah.
Now let's jump into some of the main concepts covered in the guide.
Okay.
Starting with sustainable sites, or SS.
Yes.
Why is this category so important?
Sustainable sites sets the stage for the whole project.
Okay.
It's about making smart choices about the location, minimizing environmental impact during construction,
Right.
and even thinking about how people will get to and from the building without relying on cars.
Speaking of location, the guide mentions that LEED actually rewards brownfield redevelopment.
Yes.
Most people probably think building on untouched land is the best option, right?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But redeveloping a brownfield, which is a site that's been previously developed and might even be contaminated, can actually earn you more points.
Wow.
It's all about cleaning up and revitalizing these underutilized spaces.
Yeah.
So you prevent sprawl, you limit environmental damage, and you give new life to areas that need it.
That's really interesting, almost like urban recycling. And then within sustainable sites, there's also a focus on things like parking, right?
Yes.
I'm curious about those parking perks the guide mentions.
Ah, yes. The alternative transportation credit.
Okay.
This is all about reducing that car dependency.
Okay.
You get points for things like providing preferred parking for fuel-efficient vehicles.
Okay.
Think hybrids, electric cars, that sort of thing.
So if I'm picturing a BEATS or certified building, there should be plenty of prime parking spots reserved for those eco-friendly rides.
We got it. And here's something that might surprise you.
Okay.
If there are plans for a rail system to be built near your project, and those plans are in place by the time your project is finished,
Right.
you can actually get points for that even if the train isn't running yet.
Wow. So you're essentially getting bonus points for future infrastructure you didn't even build. That's pretty strategic.
It is. LED looks at the big picture.
Yeah.
How does your project fit into a larger system of sustainable transportation?
That makes sense. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of aspects to sustainable sites that people wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
What are some things that might surprise people?
One thing that comes to mind is light pollution reduction.
Okay.
It's a big deal in AD.
Okay.
You don't want your building's exterior lights to be contributing to that hazy sky glow that washes out the stars and messes with wildlife.
Oh, I get it. Have you ever worked by a building at night and been practically blinded by those super bright lights?
Yes.
LED actually addresses that common annoyance. What else is there?
Well, you might think planting a lawn, even if it's with native species, would be a good thing, right?
Definitely. More green space is always better, isn't it?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Planting a monoculture lawn,
Okay.
which means planting just one type of grass,
Right.
won't earn you points for habitat restoration.
Oh.
LEE wants to encourage biodiversity and a thriving ecosystem,
Right.
not just a sea of identical green blades.
So it's not just about adding any greenery. It has to be a well-thought-out ecosystem.
Right.
This ties in nicely with the next category,
Right.
water efficiency. Or
Yeah.
It seems like it's all connected.
It absolutely is. Water efficiency is closely related to sustainable sites
Okay.
and even plays a role in energy use.
Okay.
Did you know that landscaping in the United States consumes a massive 30% of our daily drinking water?
30%. That's a lot higher than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
What are the biggest water guzzlers in landscaping?
Traditional lawns are definitely a major culprit,
Yeah.
especially in drier climates. But think about all the irrigation systems, sprinklers, and even decorative fountains that we see in and around buildings.
Right.
They all add up.
Yeah.
LD tackles this by requiring at least a 20% reduction in indoor water use
Okay.
compared to a baseline standard.
Wow, a 20% reduction in indoor water use. That's a significant change. It makes you think about how much water we all use in our daily lives and whether we could cut back.
It's definitely a challenge, but LD provides a framework for making those reductions.
Mm-hmm.
And it really looks at all kinds of different strategies.
So what does the guide highlight?
Well, one of the more basic approaches is encouraging, water-efficient fixtures like low-flow toilets and faucets.
Those make sense. But are there any more cutting-edge, innovative water-saving strategies that the guide mentions?
Definitely LED promotes what are called innovative wastewater technologies.
Okay.
And it might sound complicated, but the idea is pretty simple.
Okay, break it down for me.
It's all about reducing our reliance on potable water by finding alternative sources for things that don't require drinking water,
Okay.
like flushing toilets or irrigating landscapes.
So instead of using precious drinking water for everything, we can tap into sources like rainwater harvesting or even treated wastewater.
Exactly. It's all about rethinking our approach to water use.
Yeah.
Now let's shift gears
Okay.
and talk about a category that's all about, keeping things comfortable and energy efficient. Energy and atmosphere, or EA.
This one seems like it would have a big impact on a building's environmental footprint.
Absolutely.
After all, we hear so much about energy consumption these days.
We do. The energy we use in buildings is a major contributor to greenhouse gas emissions globally.
Right.
LED aims to minimize that impact in several ways, starting with optimizing energy performance.
Okay, so that sounds like a pretty broad goal.
Yeah.
How does LED actually encourage energy efficiency in practical terms?
Well, it starts with the building's design. LED encourages things like passive heating and cooling, which takes advantage of natural elements like sunlight and wind to regulate temperature.
So before we even think about complex HVAC systems, we can actually design the building itself to be more energy efficient.
Precisely. And then, of course, LED promotes using energy-efficient appliances and lighting.
Right.
Think LED lights, high-performance windows, and Energy Star-rated equipment.
Those are all things we're hearing a lot more about in everyday life these days. But it's interesting to know that LED has been pushing these solutions for years.
It has. Yeah. And beyond just the technology itself, LED also emphasizes commissioning.
Okay.
Which is essentially a process of, making sure that all of the building systems are actually running as efficiently as they were designed to.
So it's like a final quality control check to ensure everything's working together smoothly and efficiently.
Exactly. And then we have the topic of refrigerants.
Okay.
This might seem like a small detail.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite significant from an environmental standpoint.
Refrigerants. Those are the chemicals used in air conditioning systems, right?
That's right. And the issue is that some refrigerants are powerful greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change.
Mm-hmm.
LTB promotes the use of refrigerants with a lower global warming potential.
Okay.
And encourages responsible practices to prevent leaks.
So even something as seemingly minor as the choice of refrigerant can have a ripple effect on the environment.
It can.
And LD takes that into account.
It does. LEED really does look at the big picture impact of every decision.
It's pretty impressive. And speaking of the big picture, LD also strongly encourages the use of renewable energy sources whenever possible.
It does.
So does this mean incorporating things like solar panels on the roof or wind turbines.
Exactly.
Right.
LEED awards points for both on-site renewable energy generation, such as solar panels or wind turbines,
Right.
and for purchasing green power, which is electricity generated from renewable sources off-site.
Okay.
It's about supporting a transition to cleaner energy.
It seems like LE is really paving the way for a more sustainable energy future. Now, what about the actual materials we use to construct these buildings? Does the guide dive into that aspect?
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
That brings us to the Materials and Resources category,
Okay.
or MR.
Mm-hmm.
This category is all about minimizing the environmental impact
Right.
of the materials we use in both the construction and operation of buildings.
I imagine it's a lot more complex than just choosing recycled materials.
It is.
Huh?
LE takes a comprehensive approach looking at the entire life cycle of building material,
Oh, wow.
from their extraction to manufacturing, use, and eventual disposal.
So it's not just about what a material is, but its whole story. Where it came from, how it was made, and what happens to it at the end of its life.
You got it. LE encourages things like using recycled content materials,
Okay.
sourcing materials locally to cut down on transportation emissions,
Right.
and choosing rapidly renewable materials.
Rapidly renewable material. That's a new one for me.
Right. They're pretty cool. These are materials that are sourced from things that regenerate quickly,
Okay.
like bamboo
Right.
or certain types of wood.
Okay.
This approach helps reduce our reliance on resources that take a long time to replenish.
It's all about thinking about how we can use resources in a way that doesn't deplete the planet.
Precisely. And LE also promotes responsible forestry practices. It encourages using wood that's been certified by the Forest Stewardship Council, or FSC.
So if you're using wood products in a LEED certified building, you can be confident that they come from forests that are managed sustainably.
Exactly. LEL also addresses waste management on construction sites.
Okay.
It encourages construction waste diversion, which essentially means keeping as much material as possible out of landfills.
So instead of just tossing everything in the dumpster,
Yeah.
LE promotes finding ways to reuse, recycle, or even compost construction waste.
Exactly. It's all about minimizing waste and maximizing resource recovery.
Yeah.
Now let's shift our focus to what it's like to actually be inside a LE building.
That's really what it's all about, right? Creating a healthy and comfortable environment for the people who use the building.
Absolutely. That's where the Indoor Environmental Quality category, or IEQ, comes in.
Yeah.
It covers everything from air quality and lighting to acoustics and even things like views.
So 80 isn't just about saving energy and resources. It's also about making sure a building is actually a pleasant and healthy place to spend time.
Precisely. One of the most important elements of IEQ is ventilation.
Okay.
80 promotes bringing in plenty of fresh outdoor air
Right.
to dilute indoor pollutants and create a healthier indoor environment.
That sounds refreshing. Does 80 get specific about how much fresh air is needed?
It does. It references standards like HHRA 62.1,
Okay.
which establishes minimum ventilation rates
Right.
for different types of spaces.
Okay.
It's not just about opening a window occasionally.
Right.
It's about ensuring a continuous flow of fresh air
Okay.
to maintain good indoor air quality.
So there's a real science behind these recommendations. What about the sources of indoor air pollution themselves? Does A address those?
Yes, 80 encourages the use of low-emitting materials,
Okay.
which release fewer harmful chemicals into the air.
Right.
Think about things like paints, carpets, and adhesives.
Ah, yes. Those are often the sources of that new car smell or new paint smell, which, as we all know, isn't necessarily a good thing.
Exactly. 80 actually sets limits
Okay.
on the amount of volatile organic compounds, or VOCs,
Right.
which are those chemicals that can cause those strong odors and can be harmful to human health.
Right.
It's all about making sure the air we breathe indoors is as clean and healthy as possible.
That's great. It's easy to forget that indoor air quality can sometimes be worse than outdoor air quality, so it's great that A prioritizes that.
It does. And beyond air quality,
Yeah.
80 also addresses things like daylighting and views.
Ah, those are the features that really make a space enjoyable.
They do.
Natural light and a connection to the outdoors can make a big difference.
They really can. LEED encourages maximizing natural light,
Okay.
which has been shown to have positive effects on mood and productivity.
Right.
It also promotes providing views to the outdoors, which can reduce stress and give people a sense of connection to nature.
So it's not just about functionality and efficiency.
Right.
It's about creating a space where people actually feel good.
Right. And LEED even considers things like acoustics, encouraging designs that minimize noise pollution.
Yeah.
And create spaces that are acoustically comfortable.
That's especially important in places like schools or offices where people need to be able to focus and concentrate.
Exactly. LEED even has specific requirements for schools.
Oh, wow.
Addressing things like reverberation time and sound isolation to create optimal learning environments.
Wow. So LEED truly is a comprehensive system. It thinks about every little detail of a building's impact on the environment and the people who use it.
It does.
But what if someone wants to go above and beyond
Yes.
those basic LED requirements?
That's where the innovation and design credit comes in.
Okay.
It gives project teams the opportunity to earn bonus points for exceeding standard LEED requirements or for implementing cutting-edge sustainable strategies that aren't specifically covered in the rating system.
So it's a way to reward those who are pushing the boundaries of sustainable building practices and coming up with creative solutions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It encourages ongoing innovation and helps to continually raise the bar for sustainability in the building industry.
Right.
And then there's the regional priority credit, which is pretty interesting.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
This credit acknowledges that different regions face unique environmental challenges.
Right.
It allows projects to earn extra points for addressing issues that are specific to their geographic location.
So it's about tailoring LA to the specific needs and priorities of different places. That makes a lot of sense.
It does. For example, a project in a region with water scarcity might earn additional points for implementing aggressive water conservation measures. Or a project in a region with high air pollution might get extra points for minimizing transportation emissions.
It's a great way to ensure that LEED is relevant and impactful no matter where a building is located.
It is.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of LEED, BD plus C. You've definitely given me a much clearer understanding of the key concepts. I feel much better prepared to tackle that study guide now.
I'm happy to hear that. Remember, understanding these concepts is just the first step. The true power of LEED lies in applying these principles to create a more sustainable built environment.
It's inspiring to see how much thought and consideration goes into making buildings more sustainable. And it's not just about these large-scale construction projects, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
While the study guide focuses on new construction,
Right.
the principles of sustainable design can be applied to renovations, smaller projects, and even the choices we make in our own homes.
That's a great point. We can all be LEED thinkers in our own way.
Absolutely. For instance, many of the water efficiency strategies we discussed, like using low-flow fixtures or even planting drought-tolerant landscaping, are things anyone can do.
It's a good reminder that even small changes can make a difference in reducing our individual impact.
You really can. And don't underestimate the power of choosing sustainable products in your everyday life.
Right.
When you're shopping, look for products made with recycled content.
Okay.
Or those that have been certified by organizations like Green Seal or the Forest Stewardship Council.
So our purchasing decisions can actually contribute to a more sustainable built environment.
They absolutely do. And remember the importance of reducing energy consumption in your daily routine.
Yeah.
Simple habits like turning off lights when you leave a room or unplugging electronics when you're not using them can make a difference over time.
It's all about being mindful of our energy use and finding those little ways to conserve resources.
Exactly. And if you're interested in exploring green building practices further, I encourage you to look into what's happening in your local community. You might be surprised by the innovative projects and initiatives that are already underway.
That's a great idea. There's a whole world of sustainable building happening right in our own neighborhoods.
There is.
Yeah.
And the more we learn about it,
the
more we can all contribute to creating a healthier and more sustainable future.
Well, I'm feeling pretty motivated to put on my LEED thinking cap and start making some changes, both big and small.
That's great.
Thanks for taking us on this deep dive. It's been incredibly insightful. And a huge thank you to expert speaker for guiding us through all of this information.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been great exploring these concepts with you. Remember, every step we take towards sustainability, no matter how small, moves us closer to a brighter, greener future.
That's a great note to end on. Until next time, keep seeking knowledge and diving deep.